Hi, welcome to pgcasts, a production of Hashrocket. My name is Josh Branchod. In this episode, I'm going to show you how to find and kill an idle Postgres connection. Earlier this week, I ran into an issue with a connection to a project's database. The connection should have been closed almost immediately, but instead it was hanging around idly. The details of this aren't important. There are all sorts of scenarios where you may end up with an unwanted connection to your database. But what we want to focus on is how to track down such a connection and then how to kill it. Now, there are all sorts of tools and approaches for tracking down and killing processes. What we are about to do is more fun though, because it will all happen within a PSQL session. To get started, let's create a connection to our database. Now, to get a clear picture of what is going on, I'm going to start a transaction, create a table, insert a few rows into that table, and then select all the rows from that table. And we'll do that now. Everything happened successfully. Our transaction is still open. Now, this is going to be our idle connection, so we'll just leave that in place. And now we'll open up another connection to our database. It is from this connection that we can track down and kill our idle connection. In addition to all the things we typically think of Postgres doing for us, it also monitors server process activity. Postgres exposes this information through the pgstat activity view. One of the processes being monitored is our idle connection. With the right query, we can find that process. So what information does this pgstat activity view expose? Let's take a look. There's a whole bunch of information, but what jumps out to me is the dat name, which is going to be the name of our database, the PID, which is going to be the process ID, and then this last column here, the query, which is going to be the last query executed on that connection. With that in mind, let's see what we find if we grab the PID and query columns for the current database. And we can use the current database function as a helpful shortcut. And we get two results, and they're pretty telling. The second one here, we can see matches up to our current connection. That's the query we just executed. And the first one corresponds with that idle connection that we're trying to track down. So right here, 17160 is the PID we're looking for. With that process ID in hand, we can now terminate the connection using none other than the pgterminate backend function. And we'll go ahead and execute that. And we'll see we get a single row result with the value true. And this tells us that our connection was in fact successfully terminated. However, if we look at the connection we have open above, it doesn't really look like anything happened. So let's try rerunning our previous query from that connection by popping back up here. And we'll just run the select. As you can see, our connection was in fact terminated. As I tried to tab complete the name of the table, I got a message telling me that the connection was terminated due to some administrator command. Now PSQL is able to reconnect us, but because the connection was terminated, any transactions will have been rolled back and locks released. So we can try our query again. But we'll see that that relation doesn't exist. The transaction in which we created that table was rolled back, and so we no longer have that table. As you may have noticed earlier, there's a lot more information packed in to the pgstat activity view, so feel free to explore it further. Also, keep in mind that pgterminate backend and friends are system admin functions, and you will need the appropriate permissions to run them successfully. Check out the links in the resources for more details. Until next time, may your data be consistent and your queries performant.